Hi everyone, my name is Anastasia and welcome back to my channel. It's dark, it's raining, so it's a perfect time to compare Santiago and Pucón. They are two very different versions of life in Chile that you can have to live in Santiago, which is the capital of Chile, or in Pucón, which is located south of Chile. I will be honest with you, they are completely different and sometimes it does feel like living in two different countries. Santiago is very comfortable for life. It's big, it's busy, you can find a lot of jobs, schools, activities, shopping centers. Yes, you can find everything in Santiago. And Pucón, it's small, it's slower, it's a bit more relaxed, more nature connected. So the question is where the life can be better, in Santiago or in Pucón. I am not going to give you this answer, I will tell you right away, but I will tell you what I found that is different in Pucón and Santiago, what is better, what is worse, and make your own conclusions, my friends. When thinking about Chile, most people picture Santiago. It has the most international flights, it's the capital of the country, so, it does make sense to think about it, but the thing that most people forget when talking about Chile is that it's super long. So if you're living in Arica or if you're living in Puerto Varas, they are two completely different lives. You can live in a desert or you can live with rains and snows. Santiago is kind of like any other big city that you might see in your life. So it's very busy, it has a lot of traffic, a lot of people, it has a lot of tourists all year long. You can see some dirt, some crime, absolutely normal. The thing about Santiago that surprised me the most, though, actually there are two things that surprised me the most. So first of all is the ginormous difference between the communes. So in different areas of the city, your life is completely different. Like I lived in Santiago Center, and downtown Santiago at the time when I was living there, and I lived there for 5 years, it was dirty, it was full of homeless people and dogs, and it was not safe, not safe at all. Like I was ambushed while running in the park in the morning, where all the other people were also running, but nobody cared, So you live in a ginormous city, but you live there a very lonely life, at least in the downtown. Because like most people who come there, they are tourists or they are come from different countries to work in these low-paid jobs. So yeah, it was not the best place to live. But then you come to communes like Las Condes, and there you see all of this super expensive apartment complex. It's clean, it's safer, and you're like a completely different world, So yes, Santiago can be experienced completely different based on whether you're a tourist or live there and in which commune, in which area do you live. I just couldn't afford Las Condes, so I lived where I could, and yeah, it was not safe. And another thing that surprised me a lot about Santiago is that it actually has a lot of opportunities for everyone. And I don't mean like work opportunities. Obviously, you have work opportunities because it's the capital, but you have a lot of museums or activities for kids, or you can go to hiking or you can go cycling, like for example in the city center, they close the streets every Sunday morning for the cyclists. How amazing is that, right? So you can always find something to do. You always have some kind of exhibitions or some activities for kids or circuses or theater. There is always something to do, and it doesn't matter how old you are, if you are single, a family, which preferences you have. There is something for everyone. And of course you have like all of these ginormous amounts of people going in metros, in buses on the street, a lot of cars, the noise, the constant noise, like they live in an apartment, crowded place with cockroaches. Yes, we had cockroaches in the apartment. So it wasn't very pleasant and it wasn't very personal. Here in Pucón, however, it's completely different. So it's a small city. it's also a touristic place. So if you live in Pucón for the whole year, you will notice that living here in winter, let's say June, July, August, right, you will feel like it's a small countryside where you know everyone, where there are not a lot of people walking down the street. You can literally get by car anywhere you want, or by bicycle. And then you have summer, which is like January, February mostly. And it's a completely different city. We have so many tourists that sometimes we cannot go out by car just because the cars are just standing on the street. They're not moving anywhere for hours. That's how many tourists you have. Like, you literally walk in crowds on the street, and it never happens during the year. In Santiago, you do have nature, so you can go and do all kind of hikes. Like, for example, we went obviously to all the parks that they have, but also you have the hills that you can climb, like Cerro Naranjo or Cerro Carbon, you know. So you do have all of these nature opportunities pretty close to you if you live in Santiago. But the difference with Pucón, first of all, yes, obviously here it's faster to get to nature. You can see the volcanoes, but also the pollution. In Santiago, when you go up the hill, up Cerro Naranjo, for example, you go up the hill and you see this amazing view, the mountains, and then you see literally the cloud of dirt, of pollution above Santiago. So you have like this line. Everything down there is dirty, up there is clean. And it's crazy to think that you spend most of your time down there breathing all of this. Here in Pucón, it doesn't happen, although during the winter months, you will also have a pollution in the air because everybody has their estufitas, right? They all put fire to warm up the houses because it's cold here. So yeah, it's a different kind of pollution, and it's limited, which is also good. So it's limited only to the cold months. So Santiago, it's more practical. You can get everything you want. You have all the hospitals, the medical care, education, museums, theaters, and everything. Pucón, it's more nature, it's more chill. So sometimes you cannot buy some things in Pucón and you have to order them online, or maybe go to Temuco or Villarrica, which is like, Temuco is a 1 hour drive, sometimes 1 hour and a half, depends on the traffic and where you live in Pucón. And yes, it can be uncomfortable that you don't have all the things on the tip of your fingers, you know, right here. You need to put an effort, but here all depends on your preferences. Like, if you want to have a big shopping mall where you can buy everything, Pucón is not for you. But if you want to have an amazing view to the volcano, mountains, rain, snow, heat, swimming in the lakes, in the rivers, and going on hikes, then Pucón is for you. So now let's talk about money, because this is usually one of the reasons why you select the place to live. So Santiago, it is expensive. For example, if you want to rent an apartment in Las Condes, you cannot find it cheaper than $1,000 a month, and it's not going to be even big. It's going to be like one, maximum 2 room apartment in not the best place. So this is Santiago in good area. Here in Pucón, we live for half that price in a house. It's not a big house, it's not a new house, but it is a closed community. It's close to the center, close to all the activities that the kids have. And it's a house. I mean, we have a yard. We did not have a yard in Santiago, you know, because we lived in a tiny apartment. So yeah, here for the same price as the tiny apartment that we had in Santiago, we have a house which is bigger and in a safer neighborhood. So if you live in Santiago, everything seems to be more expensive than Pucón, you would think, but not exactly. For example, if you are buying fresh produce, if you're buying a lot of meat, fish, veggies, sometimes in Pucón it's more expensive in Santiago. Yeah, because everything depends where you buy it in Santiago. But yes, going to the supermarket can be more expensive in Pucón than in Santiago. And if you're looking for like super fresh, super organic products, then you have more limited options here in Pucón, and they will be more pricey. So as I mentioned, food and also everyday shopping can feel more limited in Pucón, but again, we live in times where you can buy everything online, so if you don't need it right away, right this moment, then no problem buying it online, right? But in Pucón, again, you have free nature. You can go to the park, you can go to the lake, you can ride here a bicycle and not be so concerned about the cars and the traffic like you would be in Santiago. For example, in Santiago, I wouldn't go with my kids by bike. Here I can, because it's safe, because most people, and not the tourists, but the locals, they respect kids going by bicycles because they also have kids who go by bikes. So they stop, they let them have all the time they need to cross the street and be safe and everything. So yes, here in Pucón, going by bike with your kids, easy. And again, with a little car drive, you can get to the volcano, to more rivers, more waterfalls, more lakes, and even you can get to the ocean if you wanna, to Argentina again. So you have a lot of travel opportunities here near this small town, and I would say it's easier to do it than in Santiago. The transportation, now let's talk about transportation. So if you do not have a car, it might be difficult to live in Pucón. We do have here Uber recently, and we also have some taxi here and buses, but it's not like in Santiago. So obviously we don't have subway, right? We don't have metro. And the bus in Santiago, you literally go on the bus stop and you have like 7 options that go to the same direction and they go fast. Here in Pucón, it's a bit different. We do have buses, they are smaller and they don't go as often and might not go as far as you would like to. So yeah, owning a bike or a car here in Pucón can really change your life and make it better. Now let's talk about life with kids, Santiago versus Pucón. So in Santiago, I was going out with my kids to the park. It was a dirty playground, dirty park, a lot of homeless people on the street, a lot of homeless people starting to talk to us, which did not feel safe. I was almost mugged in this park, and it generally did not feel very safe living in the downtown Santiago with the kids, especially because I have lighter hair than most of the people in Santiago, and my kids also have the same kind of hair, and we're girls. So yeah, we did get a lot of unwanted attention on the streets, which did not make my life easier or safer there. Also in Santiago, like if you have been in the city center, when we went to the market, for example, to buy some fresh fruits and veggies, not only you have like all of this dirt and people literally living in tents near the street, but you also have a lot of people who sell stuff on the street. So sometimes it can be very hard with people and these people selling stuff on the road to pass with a stroller and a child. So I did not particularly enjoy it, but Santiago has a ginormous plus if you're living there with kids. Playgrounds and all kind of activities. So the choice of activities, I wouldn't say that it's bigger, meaning all after school activities like dancing, singing, piano, all of this stuff. No, we have a lot of that in Pucón. But I mean like zoo, theater, museum, these kind of things. And obviously a lot of playgrounds. Like in Santiago, you can find a lot of very, very, very good, very new, amazing playgrounds for kids. Here in Pucón, we have like one good playground that is in Plaza de Armas, and it's not even that good. So yes, it all depends on your preference. Like we do have 2 inside playgrounds here in Pucón, one inside the city, one outside of the city, and you do have a couple of museums. I'm not gonna say that they're bad, they are good, but they're limited. And no zoos. So for example, my kids, they very much miss the zoo that we had in Santiago, and they're like, oh, what is that picture, mom? And I tell them, well, we went to the zoo or we went to this playground, and they're like, but I don't remember, and it looks so amazing and I want to go there again. They're all in Santiago. In Santiago, we literally went to every single museum and every single playground there is, so I know what I'm talking about. They have a very big choice of these activities for kids. But again, here in Pucón, we have an amazing park that is super clean, super safe, and is like absolutely nature-like. So even if you don't own a car and you cannot go outside of the city to walk in the nature with your kids, then you always have the river that is close here, you have this park, you have one playground, yes, and you have a lake, obviously. I personally wanted very much to involve my kids in more nature than city. That's why I insisted so badly on moving here, because I wanted them to feel like they are part of the nature, you know, like going outside and not seeing garbage but leaves. But again, for kids, for example, healthcare can be hard to find, so sometimes you have to go to Villarrica or Valdivia or even Temuco, you know. So it's not very easy to get like a very good education or very good healthcare here. But for my family, for the choices that we made, like homeschooling, and my kids have a bunch of after school activities here, it works amazing. Now let's talk about safety and daily comfort. Like I already mentioned, Pucón is way safer. And for example, if you live here in the closed community, there are a lot of people who don't even close their cars for the night, because it's just, why? You know, it's more comfortable just to open the car door in the morning than looking for the keys and open, close, and all this stuff. And another thing is that, yes, obviously, like I'm not gonna tell you that Pucón is such an amazing place that is like super safe and nothing ever happens. Obviously, some stuff still happens. Like there's still robberies, car thefts, and people robbing stores, for example, that happened recently, or like getting car accidents and stuff. But it happens everywhere, and just like the level of safety that you get in Pucón is way higher than in Santiago. Another thing is that, yes, here in Pucón you do have dogs that live on the street, but mostly they are nice. Mostly, I'm saying mostly because recently one of the dogs, it beat the tire of our car and we had to replace it. So, you know, they're mostly nice, but I haven't met a single homeless person yet. So, you know, the streets, they're generally cleaner. It's also not European amazing safe and clean situation, but if we compare it with Santiago, I do feel way safer here. Also here, because we live on the south, like in the south of Chile, generally people also have lighter hair, so you know, I don't feel that different. And if we forget about the machismo that exists here more than in Santiago, I do feel safer. Like in Santiago, I couldn't go outside of the house without like some people, you know, like giving this attention, catcalls and all the stuff, which was very uncomfortable, and you literally had to think a lot about what you are wearing, how you're walking, how you're looking at people. Here in Pucón, it's safer. It never happened, and I live here over a year, so you know, going out with kids, it's mostly people are being just nice, and that's the most important part. And also you have a feeling of community, so you're going out with your kids, and on the street, walking for half an hour, let's say, you will meet at least 2 people that you know, at least. So there are not so many people, and you know most of them. And we do have Russians living here, which is also good for me, so you know, I think it's perfect choice. And yes, we have Russians living in Santiago as well, but a bit different kind, I would say. So for me, daily life in Pucón, it does feel better, it does feel safer. I do miss bookstores that I had in Santiago. I really, really miss them because, yeah, here we have like a couple and they are very expensive. So I do miss Rosas also, which is a place where you can buy a lot of crafts, and markets. Here we don't have markets, but we do have stores. So basically, if you want to buy fruits and veggies, you can just go select the fruteria that you like and you do it there. But in Santiago, you had markets where you do that. So Santiago has better infrastructure, it has more services, it has more opportunities than Pucón. But again, it depends on what you expect, what you can afford. And lastly, let's talk about weather. So as I already mentioned, we live on the south of Chile. Pucón is in the south of Chile, so it means that it's colder generally than in Santiago. In Santiago, there were years with like maybe 2 or 3 days of rain. Here you have weeks of rain. It's colder, you have more green nature around you, so you can feel, for example, the change of the season that is happening right now from summer to autumn. You can feel it very well, and I really missed it in Santiago. Another thing that I missed in Santiago were the clouds. There are a lot of days when you cannot see clouds in Santiago, and here in Pucón you have them. And another thing is that you have snow. You have very available, close, very reachable snow here in Pucón. In Santiago, if you drive up to the mountains, you also have snow, but there are more people there, and you literally need to go up the mountain for like a 2-hour drive to get to the snow. Here it can sometimes be a 10-minute drive because you just need to go a little bit up the mountain to the volcano and you have snow. So this is also amazing, and my kids love snow, turns out. So I am happy, you know. So again, if you don't like rain, if you don't like snow, if you don't like cold, do not select Pucón. So this video turned out way longer than I anticipated. But yes, I think I covered everything. If you still have questions about Pucón or Santiago, definitely let me know in the comments and I will answer them. And let's make a little conclusion. So who do I think need to live in Santiago or would prefer Santiago? People who need to have some local work opportunities. So if you don't work remotely and you need to have like a big office and this kind of stuff, Santiago 100%. If you need to have many school choices and available healthcare, also Santiago. If you need to have like regular healthcare, so like, I don't know, maybe regular procedures or visits to some specialists, also Santiago. If you do prefer city life, a lot of museums, activities, theaters, circuses, I don't know, what else can you have? Exhibitions, restaurants, nightlife, also Santiago. More options, not depending on the car, more like buying options, Santiago. And if you need to do a bunch of paperwork, like if you just came to Chile, for example, if you fly a lot, also Santiago. Because from Pucón, you have only one direction for the flights, Santiago. And who should choose Pucón? If you really love nature and you spend most of the time in nature. If you want a slower, more chill life and the sense of community also. If you have kids, want them to spend most of their time outside, not breathing all of these city gases. If you're okay with rain and seasonal changes, maybe that is something that you miss like I did, Pucón. If you have a car and willing to drive it, or enjoy riding a bicycle and also willing to do it, Pucón is going to be for you. And especially if you have some kind of remote work like I have, amazing choice. So, you know, Santiago and Pucón, they both have their pluses, both have their minuses. It literally all depends on your lifestyle, your expectations, your salary, because they're completely different, but they are in the same country. I would say that if you just start your life in Chile, Santiago can be easier just because it's like more familiar. It has more infrastructure. You don't need to have a car, driving license, you know, these kind of things. You don't need to go far for getting your documents or healthcare, because I had to fly to Santiago to get my passport, my Russian passport. I mean, because obviously the embassy is in Santiago. So yes, I would say Santiago is easier if you're just starting here, if you have a lot of documents that you need to make and don't have a car, 100%. I hope this video helped you a lot. Like, I lived in Santiago for 5 years and then I moved to Pucón, and I can honestly tell you I do not want to go back to Santiago. So if you have more questions, Santiago, Pucón, life in Chile in general, don't forget to leave me a comment, and I will definitely make more videos about some places in Pucón that you can see with kids or without kids. You know, if you're coming here just on vacation or if you are coming here to live. So thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry that this video is so long, but there's a lot of information to fit in. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.